Beep, 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 beep. All that's new and improved from the Jester News Arse of Gravy. Good morning, all. I've left the glow in, because as a few of you said, the glow in the window. It's all aesthetics with you lot, isn't it? What's going on? Right. This is an important one today, and it's a long one. It's going to be a long one. So it might run out of time. It does that. It gets fed up with me and sort of goes, shut up, fatty, and closes itself down. So once it does that, if I have to do another one, I will. But it might cut off quickly. So if it does, forgive me. Right? Okay, now. I wonder if you could all guess what I'm going to talk about today. We have a new consultation from the NHS based upon the findings in the interim cash report, but also on their need to produce the new service for people with this particular disorder, and to do so by splitting by closing the Tavistock and opening units elsewhere in the country. So they've released their proposal document. Remember, all things are in the doobers, right? Okay, buy me a coffee. Subscribe to my Patreon. Most of all, become a warrior teacher. We need more of you. Looks like some of my warrior teachers had a lovely time at the LGBT Alliance do yesterday. Fantastic. Right, so I've got this document, 17 pages of it, and I've read through it, and I've read through it, and I've read through it again. And to say that I have concerns is the understatement of the century. So first off, what do they call it? Where you don't want to get blamed. A disclaimer. Here, have my disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. Go figure, I'm a teacher, right? I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm none of those things, right? None of them, right? What I am is a usurper of ideology, or a turd, a trans-usurping radical daddy, right? Okay, so this is what I'm going to do with this pile, because I'm not happy. Now I understand, and of course there is, within the confines of the document, some very good news indeed. Let's see if you have the same take as I do. Okay, so the purpose of the document is to really work alongside patients, patient groups and stakeholders in the development of its commissioning services. A public consultation is an opportunity to check whether proposals are all right and support it. Support it. Right, okay. Clinical evidence. Right. We're going to identify any alternatives before decisions are made. This is your chance to speak. So, go and do your thing. All in the doobers, in the description, links to where you can take part and have your say within this consultation, although I know many wonderful institutions and people will be already doing so without any encouragement from me. So it's going to run for 45 days, right? And it looks at a number of things: how care is currently provided, how the service specification could change, and how the proposed changes will be implemented. Now, as this has come from the NHS, it's literally the horse's mouth. So I've got a couple of things that I want to start with first off, which is that they use the word gender in this document, and they don't need to. It's insane that that's even in there, and that's the first thing, is to get this word gone. They even use the word gender identity. We'll come to that as well, but they're doing that as well. And it's just somebody who's got dysphoria, a mental condition. That's it. And they should stick to that, really. And the word sex or sex roles. Right? So here we go. My first big worry is that documents included in this consultation, quality and health inequalities impact assessment. Now, there are people like Audrey who are specialists in this arena, and I know Audrey will be saying, yes, we should be doing inequalities and health inequalities impact assessment. And I would agree with Audrey. This is on page 4 if you're following along, right? So equalities and health inequalities impact assessment. The document assesses the potential impact of the interim service specification on population groups that may be disproportionately affected by changes, and make appropriate recommendations to mitigate, and here it comes, any inequity. Careful, folks. Right? Careful. This should be clinically evidence-driven, first off, okay? And should be firmly rooted in truth and fact. I'm very concerned when they talk about mitigate inequity when they've already got the language of the cult in the document. That's my first concern. The second one is this: the term used to describe a discrepancy between birth assigned sex and gender. Right? You're not assigned a birth at sex, you're not even assigned a gender at sex. It's observed, right? It's observed. They're calling it gender incongruence, right? I think they need to find a better term. Gender incongruence is frequently, but not universally, accompanied by symptoms of gender dysphoria. They are making it real, okay, by using the same terminology used by the people that got us in the mess we are now. I would suggest that where somebody is finding a discrepancy, that person should be helped to realise that there isn't a discrepancy, it's in their mind. Right? Now, I think they're probably going to do that, But this worries me that this is in the consultation document, unless it's a SOP for the nutters. It might be a SOP for the nutters, I don't know. It says here then, a disorder characterised by a strong and persistent cross-gender identification, cross-sex identification, such as stating a desire to be the other sex or frequently passing as the other sex. They can't help themselves, right? So you've got gender identification above the line, and then below it they talk about sex. It's coupled with a persistent discomfort with his or her sex. You know the two sexes, his or her? What are they doing? Right? Because if I think for 1 second that something that's supposed to be factual is being both-sided, which is what this sounds like to me, then we are in trouble again. This isn't going to do what we want it to do. Right? There is currently only one provider of specialist services. Not for long. It's done, right? So, you know, these kids are going to get the proper care they need. This is only up to the 18th birthday. I've got problems with that as well, but we'll come to that another time. The Gender Identity Development Service for Children and Adolescents, delivered by the Tavistock and Portman NHS Foundation Trust in London. The GIDS is also directly commissioned by Wales, so this is going to affect Wales as well. I've got multiple problems with GIDS, and there will be those of you that know why. I don't think that the people that caused this problem in the first place should be anywhere near this consultation or anywhere near the eventual outcomes. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think it might be coded into this document. So Hilary Cass has had a huge, huge impact on this, and we're hoping to see more work from the Honourable Cass. You know, every time I hear her name, all I can think is all the leaves are brown. That was Mama Cass, choked to death on a ham sandwich. What a way to go. Okay, so there were 5,000 referrals in 2021 and 2022. 5,000 referrals, right? And then that's up from 2011, which was 250. Most of them boys. Now it's most of them girls, right? Don't tell me there isn't a social contagion. It's absolutely social contagion. Writ large. I'm spitting. Anger. See, I'm spitting with anger. Writ large, okay? It's absolutely social contagion. What on earth did these people think was going to happen when you made something as crippling as this kind of dysphoric condition into a bloody identity? Right? We don't do it with anorexia, right? Yeah, stop eating. You're all right. You're so fat. We don't do it with anything like that, right? This is the only one of these mental issues that people have where we require them to change the body in order to please the mind. No. Right? So 250 referrals, it's insane, the number of referrals, right? So it was predominantly birth registered males. They're saying it again. It's just males. And predominantly birth registered females. It's just females. And they generally presented in early teen years. What a surprise. Additionally, a significant number of children are also presenting with neurodiversity. We know this. ADHD, autism, looked after children. You know the one thing it doesn't mention? Sexuality. 80% were gay. In the original Dutch model, 100% were gay. And they don't even mention it. This isn't what we thought it was. This has led to a lack of clinical consensus and the best model of care for children and young people experiencing, and again, they've got it, gender incongruence and dysphoria. Now, at least they've separated dysphoria out from gender incongruence. It's not gender incongruence. It's a desire to be the other sex. A desire that can never, ever be fulfilled. Ever. It says here, long waiting times for the initial assessment and significant external scrutiny and challenge surrounding the clinical approach and operation capacity it gives. They were inundated. Let's be honest, we know they were inundated. Absolutely inundated. Are you telling me that there was 250 in 2011, there's 5,000 in 2021? Are you telling me that the number of staff has gone up to match that? I doubt it. I doubt it. It must have been a tsunami of shit for everybody involved. Now, then says, this is why it can't meet the service. So what we're looking at is they're going to split it, and there's going to be the need by Cass here, urged by Cass, the need to urgently move from the current model of sole provider, spelled S-O-L-E provider, makes them sound like they're bringing fish. White wine? No, they misspelt it. When we understand what gender identity ideology is, it actually should say sole provider, S-O-U-L, shouldn't it? With its religious connotations. They're going to establish regional services and that can better meet the holistic needs of a vulnerable group of children. I got a problem with that. The assumption that these children are automatically vulnerable, I think, is partially responsible for why we're in this mess in the first place. an inability by lots and lots of people to say no and say it loudly to children. Give us your phone, give us your computer, up to your room, that's it, we're done with your nonsense. In July, CAS advised regional centres, which I've mentioned, and they will be involved with generally specialist children hospitals. They should have established academic and education functions. Now, here we go, right? What they're saying is that within the actual service that's going to be provided, there will be an ongoing academic and educational function to ensure that ongoing research and training is embedded within the service delivery model. I have serious issues with that. First off, the universities are captured beyond belief. So who are you going to get in? Who are you going to bring in? You'll need to ensure that right down the line of the people that you're bringing in, and no way whatsoever has gender identity ideology or any of its tenets, queer theory and the other crap comes with it, been involved in the training of the people that you're going to get to do this service. How are you going to find that? The medical schools are captured, for Christ's sake. Then you've got to keep the scrag end of the academic social sciences out as well. How are you going to do that? What exactly are we going to do to make sure these consultants and these psychiatrists and whoever else it may be don't believe in the gender woo? You can't just ask them because they'll lie. The service should have an appropriate multi-professional workforce. Yes, right? Yes. Except they're missing one big one. Right? Yes. Staff should maintain a broad clinical perspective. Yes. Broad perspective, full stop. Right? This issue isn't just clinical, it's cultural. It's the isolationist nature of this I'm having a problem with. In the uncertainties surrounding their use, consideration should be given to the rapid establishment of necessary research infrastructure to prospectively enroll young people being considered for puberty-blocking drugs. It just ends. It ends. It ends. We don't sacrifice confused gay and lesbian children to please people with a mental disorder. We just don't. So they then go on to talk about establishing the new phase, right? Okay, so given the urgent need to stabilise service provision for patients and begin building a more resilient service by expanding provision, we should be shrinking the provision and eliminating it, not expanding it. The eradication of this kind of dysphoria, whether it be anorexia, whether it be this, whatever kind of thing exists, its eradication is what we need, so that people don't suffer from it. It's possible I've got all this wrong, because I'm so damned angry. Fat angry man, right? It's possible I've got it wrong. So they're saying here, a phase 1 service will be based in London and will be led by a partnership between Great Ormond Street Hospital for children. These are exemplary places to be, but they're the NHS. The NHS. Captured. Folks. Captured. The second phase will be based in the Northwest, and my question then goes, what are you going to do about the links between charities here and the NHS here? And the fact that the Northwest has got some of the most virulent trans activists working in the NHS we know. What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with these people? How are you going to keep them from getting involved? Right? How are you going to keep them out? Gender identity ideology is poison from top to bottom. You can't have a bit of it, you can't both sides it. Indigo children, anyone? The Indigo children. Look it up. Okay, so luckily, in phase 1, they're going to be bringing the GIDS contract to a managed close because of the changes that are coming, which I think is a move in the right direction. We then have replacing the current service specified by GIDS. I mean, GIDS needs to go, full stop, along with WPATH. That reminds me, there's a WPATH, not survey, petition. I'll put it in the Dubras. Go and sign it. Get these nutcases away from health. My next big worry. There is a new and urgent need to agree this specification to give the phase 1 services time to recruit staff. Right, okay. There is no two ways about this. We need to get to a situation where, when recruitment takes place, we're able to identify believers of this new cult. and keep those believers from being employed. That's the only way to go with these people, right? You can do it. There's ways to do it because we're already doing it with some businesses, so that they don't get these nutters in, right? So that's what we're going to need to do. That worries me, right? Who's looking at that? I understand this is just about the clinical bit, but they're saying they're going to be holistic, and they're not talking about anything else except clinical things. If you want to be holistic, why don't we start talking about young people's intellectual health? Yep. Because their fact that they think they're one thing when they're not is an intellectual issue for many. And I would posit more than those who have a dysphoria severe enough to require puberty blockers and surgically mutilating their bodies. It's not just a mental health, it's an intellectual issue. Self-discipline, self-pride, understanding who one is, feeling confident about who one is, being socially confident. It's an intellectual issue in some cases. There'll be more public consultations coming out afterwards. It just goes on. They have a multidisciplinary team. This is a multidisciplinary team they've had from GIDS. It's got us here. From specialists, right? Here we go, folks. I know some of you work in these fields, and I appreciate the work that you do. But so this team includes social workers. Great. We're having problems with social work, aren't we? Family therapists, as if therapists aren't involved in this. Psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists, paediatric and adolescent endocrinologists, and clinical nurse practitioners. That's who was involved in GIDS. That's what's got us here. Thankfully, Cass says a fundamentally different service model is needed, and the new interim service specification proposes that the clinical lead for the service will be a medical doctor. You better pick the right one. Personally, I don't think it should be a medical doctor. This is not purely a medical problem. I think it should be Stephanie Davis-Arroy, but that's just me. They're going to go for a more integrated approach. Academia in the middle, yep. So, I'm not dissing it all. There's going to be a couple of tiers of introduction, so it's going to take a while. It's going to be 2024, 2025 till it's up and running. And there are going to be changes, but they need to make sure that GIDS is as far away from this as possible. As far away from this as possible. Because if they're ideologically captured, which they may well be, it doesn't matter what they do, they'll undo it when they go. Because that's how they work. Right? That's how they work. What is also interesting to see is that there is going to be a much harder process in terms of gatekeeping, where people should be not getting involved in the medical process. So it's there, it's here. The document feels a bit like it's trying to keep everybody happy. That's the strange, as opposed to going, right, let's get the nutters out. No, you can't be a girl. Here we go. No, you can't be a boy. Again, it's the provision for what we're going to do about education. They're teaching this in schools and telling kids they can be whatever they want. Well, what's that going to do if they're sat there going, well, actually, what we'll do is we'll have a multidisciplinary approach? Because numbers aren't going to go down, they're going to go up. Right? So unless this starts to take in all the stuff. So I'm saying the first thing that anybody who says, oh, my daughter says she wants to be a girl, she's 12, should be a process of education. Telling them the truth about John Money and GIDS and WPATH. Telling them the truth about the reality of having a rolled up pork sausage of skin for your willy dangler. Right? Telling them the truth about what it will mean to have a hole drilled in your pelvis. Telling them the truth about where gender identity ideology came from. Money, Kinsey, yep, the whole crew. Telling them the truth about everything, right from the very beginning. And saying to them, you're about to make a decision that will affect your life based on a myth, on quack science, and the fact that there are people that want to get their hands on your body so they can make money out of it. You know, a nice away day with the kids. Nice, strong, charismatic teacher at the front. Here we go. Here's the history of it all. Right? You're probably gay, you're probably lesbian. Get laid and you'll feel better. Right, now, I'm being flippant, of course. What do you want to do with it? I'm really pleased it's happening, and I'm really pleased that you and I and other people, particularly those who are at the top of their game, and I'm talking here about Sex Matters, you know, Keep Safe Schools Alliance, Keep Prison Single Sex, Transgender Trend, you know, all these wonderful people. So I'm going to get moaned at one night for the ones I've forgotten, aren't I? Nutmeg, right? Dr. M, the Scapliagata. These wonderful people who have brought to the fore the truth necessary to understand what's happened. And the NHS comes out with this. I'm spitting blood. There's nothing declarative about it other than we're going to do what Cass said. You know, the Cass review better have a lot more clout than this, because if it maintains its presence in purely the medical arena, nothing will change. Nothing. Because they'll still teach this shit. And what you'll end up with is disgruntled people who think they've got this dysphoria of some kind, but can't get any help for it. What are you going to do with them then? It's just a self-perpetuating machine. We need to recognise that a lot of this is an intellectual problem, not a mental health problem. Stop with the mental health sales drive. Enough. Right? Now, I know from my work with young people in my community that this stuff disappears when you're tough enough with them. And I don't mean tough as in smacking them around the chops, banging their head on the table, dunking them in the canal. I mean tough enough as in you need to know the truth. As in you need to give yourself a bloody good talking to, because right now you're thinking like a twat. Go and have a look at this yourself. I'm really interested to see what you think. I didn't mean to insult anybody in any profession, but I'm telling you now, if all of your professions are fucked up, mine is. Social work's fucked up. NHS is fucked up. It's all fucked up. I don't know how many times I can say that before I get demonetised. It is, right? So you go and have a look. But the most important thing is, have your say, okay? Have your say. But read between the lines, folks. It's what they're not saying that we need to be worried about.